fighter has the highest fight IQ?
I don't think there's nobody in the game that has the fight IQ that I have.
Off the charts.
His fucking IQ.
The highest fight IQ maybe ever.
This guy hits hard. He's tough. He's this, he's that. And this guy has a dream. But my fight IQ will win this fight.
The sassy shepherd struggles with syphilis.
Wayne went to Wales to watch walruses.
Friendly frogs frolicked freely from France.
All right. UFC Fight Night, Moreno versus Albazi. Overall, very boring card. If you look at the statistics, only one knockout on the entire card. Dustin Stoltzfus, his title run starts now. Other than that, we had a couple good submissions on this card. But besides that, mostly decisions on this one. Starting with the first fight of the night, Jamie Lynn Horth versus Ivana Petrovic. They're both, they're not bad fighters, but the fight was shit.
Yeah.
I think it was a split decision. Jamie Lynn Horth, she's now 7-1. I think we all pick her to win?
I think I picked Ivana on that one.
Word.
But I should have gone with my gut, the one that had a little less to lose.
For sure. The only reason I picked Jamie Lynn Horth was those 2 wins over Lupi Godinez. I rated pretty highly, and she ended up getting it done. It was a close fight. I believe it was a split decision. Could have really given it to either of them, and nobody would have cared.
Yeah.
Up to the next card, Chad Anheliger versus Cody Gibson. This one was super dominant. Cody Gibson putting on a wrestling display, 10-8ing Chad in round 2. At least I thought so. I didn't really wait for the judges' scorecards. But Cody Gibson landing the first 12-6 elbow with the new rule and causing a cut on Chad Anheliger. Very cool. Very cool to see. That should never have been a rule in the first place. We saw 2 12-6 elbows on this card. This one and the next fight up, Garrett Armfield landed a nice one. Cody Gibson, pretty dominant performance. I said,
Cody Gibson's been looking good. I think he's got some good performances ahead of him, and I think this is some momentum to keep going with for sure.
Yeah, and Chad Anheliger is a tough dude. He's clearly hard to finish. Cody was landing good ground and pound, had a number of submission attempts. I think he had 5 or 6 submission attempts in round 2 and maybe 3 or 4 in round 3. He was going for the finish. Chad just does have good submission defense and wasn't able to get it done. But Cody Gibson wins decidedly. Unanimous decision. Up next, Siri City versus Garrett Armfield. There was a little bit of controversy here. This was, in my opinion, the best fight of the night in terms of how competitive it was. It was action the entire time. There really wasn't a huge gap of time where they weren't trying to throw something or get something done. What did you think? Because I did think Armfield won.
I think so as well, and I think even Sidney thought so as well. He mentioned it at the end of the fight. He was like, you know what, I didn't actually expect to get this win. I didn't think I won.
Yeah.
That's the tough thing with split decisions sometimes is they often are just really close fights where sometimes it's I guess it could go either way. Or that wouldn't have been the way I saw it, but sure.
Right.
What I think is a really... sorry, didn't mean to cut you off there. I was just going to piggyback a little bit off of what you said about his post-fight interview where he was talking about how he didn't think he won the fight. I think doing that, and not taking the attention to being oh, this guy obviously didn't win the fight and he's over here saying he won, and putting it on the judges instead of just being yo, I thought I won that, and he's no, I actually think I lost that fight and the other guy should have won this one. I think that really puts all of the attention on the judges, and if more big-name fighters did stuff like that, being I actually thought I lost this fight, and it probably should have went the other way, rather than it unites the fan base with that athlete, and then it puts them against the judges, and then that all that attention together should force some change. And I think I've seen so much of that lately, is everybody's saying, giving him props, even though some people might think he robbed him, giving him props, and then just putting the attention on the bad judging rather than on this guy who's over here trying to sneak a win,
Yeah, I think it's an overall net good for the sport if more people who in a close decision they were, because it's easy to get a decision in a close fight and then get on the mic and be like, yeah, I thought I did enough because you just won. They just announced you the winner. But regardless, I think fighters should be honest in these. And I don't remember whether it was a split decision or not, but I think in close fights where it goes to decision, fighters do need to be a little bit more honest, especially publicly, because like you're saying, Martin, then it puts all of the pressure on the judges. Now it's not just like, oh, well, we got a lot of people thinking that Siri won, so whatever. But if we have this where we're like, oh, well, Siri thought he lost the fight. So now the only people to look at are the judges and be like, well, where did you fuck up? Garrett Armfield, though, really good boxing, landed a lot of really strong jabs, really strong overhand rights. His boxing is very clean and strong. And he, 70-inch reach isn't something that when you look at it would seem like a crazy long reach. But Garrett Armfield is listed at 5'5". And a 70-inch reach is technically the reach of someone who's like 5'10". So he's got this boxing advantage because it's like a similar thing with Volk where people don't expect him to be able to close the distance, but he does because he's got this kind of sneaky reach. Either way, I picked Garrett Armfield in that fight. I thought he won. Whatever. We'll see what they do after that.
Yeah.
Up next, probably one of the most boring fights on the card. I don't understand how Romanov, what's up with his coaches? What's up with? Does he have a dietitian? Does he have anything? He's a professional athlete, and his gut is like hanging down to his dick. This shit makes no sense, and he clearly, his cardio is horrible. He's not like a Roy Nelson who had a big gut, but he's there the entire fight trying to finish you, trying to do. Romanov just like clearly after round one, he's got nothing left in the tank.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's a tough style for that gas tank to be so small. If you're going to be a guy that's going to try and push people against the cage, try and take them down, try and wrestle, try and be a control kind of fighter, your gas tank can't be the first round. Because then ultimately it becomes, oh, I'm holding you against the cage, not because I'm trying to advance position, but because I'm fucking exhausted.
Yeah. And Nascimento, to be fair, Nascimento didn't really have anything for him until the third round where he started to land some more on the feet, but then still ended up getting taken down. And I understand, with the pressure of Romanov, Nascimento got tired as well. It's a big dude to try to get off of you for 15 minutes. I did pick Nascimento here. I thought he was going to be able to weather the storm, which he was able to weather the storm, but dude, by round 3, it was just like neither of them had any finishing potential, and Romanov was
really nobody won that fight, and especially not
we all
anybody
lost.
Won.
No, yeah,
we all lost.
Yeah,
we all lost that one.
Yeah.
Luckily, the next fight at featherweight was one that kind of brought it back a little bit. Jack Shore versus Yusuf Zalal.
Yeah, here's where we start getting into some good shit.
Great performance from Yusuf. I mean, that knee that he landed that kind of set up the sequence for that submission was something he had been hunting the whole fight.
Yeah.
He caught the pattern really early. I remember seeing in round 1, he was bringing that knee up the middle, and it looked like it was getting close every time. And then eventually it was kind of the moment that really changed the fight.
Definitely. And round 1 was competitive too. You know, Jack Shore was landing some good boxing in round 1. He was pushing Zalal up against the fence. I think he got a takedown at one point, but really didn't have any control time. And then at the end of round 1, Zalal actually got the takedown and had a good amount of control time and was going for the submission at the end of round 1. So you could kind of see that by the end of round 1, Zalal kind of had him figured out in the grappling. And then, man, that knee that landed in round 2 was it's as perfect as you can get. I'm so surprised that Jack Shore didn't just go completely out cold.
Yeah.
But immediately jumps on the arm triangle. That's 3 submissions in a row since coming back to the UFC. He finished 3 out of 4 fights when he was outside of the UFC. One was a boxing fight and one was a kickboxing fight. But, he's now finished. Let's see. He's He's on a 7-fight win streak now, finished 6 out of those 7 fights. I think because of his performances before he got let go from the UFC originally in his first run, I think they give him a a higher ranked opponent, someone with a name,
somebody like a Giga Chikazi.
Dude, I could see him putting that. Yeah, I would love somebody that fight personally. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I didn't even really think about potential matchups next, but that sounds like it would be a great fight. Yeah, it'd be a good way to get him into the top 15.
Definitely.
Next up, Charles Jourdain versus Victor Henry. Another great fight for as long as it lasted. Dude, Charles Jourdain is a wild man.
Dude, he's one of those people that you always want to see fight, and you always want to see him succeed, because he's one of those, no matter who he's fighting, it's just not going to be boring.
Yeah.
Anytime Charles Jourdain's fighting, you know he's at least going to try and push the pace. And although he might not always have success, he'll at least make it an entertaining fight, and that's ultimately what I look for in any sort of UFC fighter. Yeah, because it's just no matter what, you just know he's gonna be out there showing his skill set and implying any sort of game plan, whether it's grappling or kickboxing. It's really, I love watching Charles Jourdain fight, honestly.
Yeah,
even though he always doesn't have success.
Well, right, but I mean, with what you're saying, because he always fights in such an exciting manner. He's one of these guys that when he does put a couple wins together, people really start talking about him because, one, he's exciting, and then if he can start putting the wins together, you start actually talking about his possible success for the future. He was going crazy, jumping knees, spin, everything you could possibly try to throw in round 1, and then in round 2 locks up maybe one of the tightest guillotines I've ever seen. Legitimately, as soon as it was almost like a ninja choke, where it was almost on the bicep, up to it was so deep. And as soon as I saw that, it was just, I knew it was over. Victor Henry tried to gator roll out of it, but it just turned into more of a ninja choke type of deal, and it was just too tight to escape.
Dude, the pirate style crew grows to 3. We're definitely adding Jourdain to the list.
Yeah, so who do we got in pirate style now? Jourdain.
We've got Charrier.
We've
got Charles Jourdain and Shara Bullet. 3 for 3 this year. Mm-hmm. I did pick against Charles Jourdain on this one. I thought Victor Henry just had the durability to get through it. And you know what? He proved me wrong, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah,
that was a great performance by Charles for sure.
Yeah, I mean, in the lead up, I thought it was going to be pretty close. Victor Henry is a good fighter. And with Charles coming down from featherweight, you never really know. But I picked Charles on the assumption that bantamweight was the best division for him all along, and we were going to see the best Charles. And I think that's what we saw.
Yeah.
I hope they give him a good name next. Yeah, these guys coming down from featherweight to bantamweight don't always have success. We haven't seen a ton of examples. Jose Aldo is really the best example of someone having success with it. But yeah, I hope similar with the Yusuf Zalal type of deal. I hope they give Charles Jourdain maybe not someone in the top 15, but someone right outside the top 15 with a good name who can really propel him into the rankings.
Yep.
Featured prelim: Ayman Zahabi versus Pedro Munoz. I got this one wrong. I thought Pedro was going to get it done.
Yeah, Zahabi looked good, man. He looks consistent. He never really is show-stopping. He's not going to be this oh my God, holy cow, did you see what he threw? But he's consistent. Yeah. He's good. He knows how to pick his shots. He's willing to wrestle. He's willing to strike. He's kind of he's happy to go to a decision too. That's the thing, right? Is he's one of those guys that's definitely in it for the full 15 minutes. Yeah. He knows that that's probably how it's going to go. But he just keeps winning, man. It's one of those things where he's been consistently good. He fights one time a year, but if that's all you need to be successful and you're willing to kind of go down that road, that's cool. He started working with a mindset coach, Mindset Mike. I don't know if that changed too much for him. He seemed like he had been pretty successful up to that point, but he certainly didn't look bad.
No, I thought he did look good in this fight, and he did cause a lot of damage on the face of Pedro. Zahabi has a really, really solid jab, and I think that was what was doing the damage mostly under Pedro's right eye. I think it was. But man, Munoz, he came out hot with like a lot of pressure in the first round and was landing some good shots. And as the fight went on, Zahabi just kind of figured him out on the feet, which a lot of people do. Pedro is just like this guy who he is good, but he's a little bit predictable. He's going to plot forward. He's going to try to land hooks.
He just had like 4 moves.
Exactly. And Zahabi, it only took him a round really to figure him out. I think you give Amin Zahabi someone in the top 15. Pedro was kind of floating like a couple numbers outside of the top 15. And Zahabi's like 37 years old. It's now or never. Like, give him someone in the top 15, see if he's ready for that level of competition. Otherwise, I don't know what we're doing with Zahabi.
Yeah, just kind of keeping him on there, I guess.
Yeah. All right, shall we move on to the main card?
On to the main card.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had Mike Malott versus Trevin Giles. Good fight. I think Mike Malott looked good.
Yeah, he did.
I think, there were moments in that fight where I thought he was potentially going to be able to get it finished. Obviously, Trevin is not an easy guy to put away.
I mean, if you land on his chin, he's gone. Yeah. He's been knocked out a few times.
He's been notoriously KO'd by a lot of people.
Yeah.
But all right, Mike.
Yeah, but after the fight, I was like, whatever. Mike Malott, he could have pushed a little harder. He clearly was like the better fighter. And so I was kind of upset that he didn't push any harder, but I actually gained some respect for him because he, on the mic, in the post-fight interview in the octagon, he said, usually I do like to go to the finish. I do like to go for the finish, and I think this was his first win by decision. Mm-hmm. I think he's finished all of his fights. So he said, I usually like to go for the finish, but after coming off a loss, I really just wanted to get back in the win column, and I respect that. I respect that he admitted that. Mm-hmm. So hopefully next time out we see a much improved Mike Malott from coming off that loss to Neil Magny, although he was winning the fight up until he got finished. I think we're going to see a much improved Mike Malott moving forward. Now that he's handled that first UFC loss and now back in the win column, I think he'll be coming back in next time with a bit more confidence.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Dude, performance of the card. Dustin Stoltzfus just came out.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dustin Stoltzfus, for fighting like a complete idiot to get us a good performance. Because, bro, he was reckless, dude. He was just going in reckless. But I think he was tired of losing in the UFC. He's like, fuck this, dude. I'm knocking someone out.
Yeah.
I think that's all that was.
It was like a kill or be killed moment. And Marc-Andre Barriault is really hard to finish. He's fought a lot of really good strikers that hit very hard, and he's not somebody that goes down easy or even backs up or he never really shows signs of being hurt or damaged at all. Yeah. He's kind of like a RoboCop where he just will march you down and he'll eat all your punches, but that's how those guys go out. They're just walking forward and then just unconscious and then unconscious.
Yeah. And that honestly, that was a bad KO, dude. I wouldn't be surprised if Marc-Andre Barriault, because his durability was kind of like his biggest weapon, and now that might be gone.
Yep.
So I don't know, man. Great performance by Dustin Stoltzfus. That had my heart going.
Yep. Give him a title shot. Let's go.
Yeah, dude. The title run starts now for Dustin Stoltzfus.
Get him in there.
Another great performance up next, Jasmine Jasudavicius. That was impressive. Ariane Lipski always comes out hard, but Jasudavicius, was able to take her down, was able to control her, and got a beautiful Darce choke in round 3.
Yeah, really nice.
Really good performance from Jasudavicius. She's getting better every fight. She's now 12-3. It's a great record. She is in the toughest women's division currently. I think now she's ranked 13.
She was 14 ahead of this, and Lipski was 13, so it would make sense.
So now
it would make sense.
Yeah. There are a lot of good fights you could make for Jasudavicius in the top 15. Like I said, that weight class is really starting to get better. Where strawweight used to be the women's weight class where all the good fighters were, that weight class is now kind of shit, and straw and flyweight, pardon me, is starting to take over in terms of being the most competitive women's division.
Most definitely. And I think we see a lot of the more exciting fights coming out of that division. We had a lot of what used to be exciting straw weights coming up to that weight, which is always nice to kind of continue to add in some competition. We'll talk about that a little bit later on because we have some stuff to talk about with the co-main. But I think it's going to be a fun division to kind of see how it shakes out, especially with these people that are coming up and really putting in some finishes.
Yeah, I agree.
It's good to see that just Judy Vicious passed the Ariane Lipsky test, because I feel like she's kind of like that Marcus Brimage fighter where all of the big names coming up in the rankings have to go through. It's like if you can't put on a highlight reel performance or a showcase performance against like this kind of fighter, then it's like that's really going to show how you're going to do in the rest of the division. And she really did well by passing that test with a good finish.
Yeah, that's a good point. Ariane Lipsky definitely like someone who's been that name, like for whatever reason. I mean, she's got good submissions. She has finishes in the UFC. She's aggressive. I picked Lipsky to win this fight because of the aggression, but Jazz Davicius is just the better fighter, clearly.
Yep.
Up next, cut both of these guys. Kyle Machado, Brenson Hibero. I mean, bro. We said this in the predictions video, like, cut both of them. Kyle Machado was like clearly one of these guys who was fighting at heavyweight. I mean, he's a big dude. He's 6'4". He's a big dude, but he was chubby, and his fighting style worked at heavyweight because heavyweights suck. But now you come down to light heavyweight, and you're going up against a super average fighter in Brenson Hibero, and you lose.
By split decision.
Yeah, and then on the other hand,
couldn't even get it done.
Yeah, and then on the other hand, Brenson Hibero, you can't beat a shitty heavyweight who's coming down to light heavyweight. Cut them both.
Yep, done. Easy. Worst fight on the card, significantly.
Yeah.
Get him out. Don't care.
Yeah.
Peace.
Well, like if you want your organization to represent these are the best fighters in the world, you cannot have fighters of this caliber on the roster.
Yeah.
Like these guys should be on the LFA prelims, you know?
For sure.
Yep.
For sure.
Like,
I don't even think they would get a title in LFA. Like none of them, you know what I mean?
No.
Like neither of these guys really has. I mean, Brenson Hibero, you know, he's athletic. He's got a long reach. You know, he's a big guy. He should be good, but he just doesn't put. I mean, he's got a lot of first round finishes, but in the UFC, he just hasn't shown any of that.
They both went 0-2, and now one of them's 1-2, and his only win was a split decision against somebody that's 0-3 now.
Yeah.
No, get him out.
Yeah,
it's easy.
All right, next fight. This fight was very frustrating.
Yeah.
Rose.
I mean, I picked it. I didn't pick it going to a 5-round decision, but man, I guess.
Dude, Rose looked good in the first 2 rounds. Like in those first 2 rounds, it looked very similar to like, not super similar to the Manon Fuhrer fight because Manon is more of like a fighter that really keeps you at distance and is like not really willing to exchange. Like that's like my main critique about Manon is that she's stronger than everyone. She's got, you know, better footwork than everyone. She has power in her hands and her kicks, but she's just like not willing to engage. Like I think she would absolutely brutalize so many people in the flyweight division, but her unwillingness to engage is like what makes her still not a star. Because you'd think like, okay, she's undefeated in the UFC. She's a good striker. She's strong for the division. Why do people not like watching her fight? And it's because she's just, dude, she just runs. She's not willing to engage. Yeah. But either way, she was not on this card. So Rose, though, a little bit more willing to engage, but that seemed to be kind of her downfall with Blanchfield. She looked good in the first 2 rounds. And then round 3 seemed like she just decided to give up. She stopped using footwork. She was just standing right in front of Blanchfield. I don't know what happened after round 2, but Rose just seemed like she didn't want to be in the fight.
Yeah. And I think that's a critique that we can say has unfortunately been consistent with Rose.
Yeah.
I can think of several times where I've thought, oh, she doesn't look like she wants to do this right now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Over and over and over again. And it doesn't help that Pat Barry's in her corner.
He was more excited for the fight than she was.
Yeah.
Like he's
trying to
fence,
vicariously live out a career here.
Yeah.
It's honestly like the downfall of Doug Rose is, and it still has people hypnotized, man. You still see every time Doug Rose is like announced the fight, they're like, "Oh, this is gonna be a good one." I'm starting to see the tides turn because people are starting to wake up and realize that she hasn't put on a great performance since the Wei Lee knockout.
Yeah, that was her
Yeah,
last.
Like that was realistically
like
that was like the last, like, oh my god, that was such a sick fight that she had. Like every single performance since then has been fucking lame. Like it's a chore to sit through, you know. But it's unfortunately, man, I think it's I'm glad to start seeing Doug Rose like get pushed lower into the rankings because it's like the less we're gonna have to see her in main card spots. She was about to be the fucking main event, bro. That was about to be the main event fight. That was 5 rounds, dude. That should be on the prelims. You know
Yeah, they shouldn't have. They shouldn't have made it 5 rounds.
Blanchfield, on the other hand, I'm excited to see her progress more because she's only 25, and she only is getting better. And coming up the division on her way up, she had so many really good finishes. So like there's potential there. And as she's starting to get more used to fighting like higher caliber opponents, she's only gonna get better when she gets closer to her prime.
Yeah, and now she called out Alexa Grasso, which I think is a great call.
I think that's a great fight.
Dude, that's a fucking good one, bro.
I think they should do Manon Fiora versus Valentina.
Shevchenko.
Yeah, and then they should do Grasso Blanchfield.
Yep.
Man, Blanchfield.
Easy.
Not only is she getting better every fight, but she gets better as the fight goes on within the fight.
Yes.
Dude, round 5, she knew it was 2-2. She came out and was cracking Rose on the feet with some boxing combinations. Like she came out so aggressive in round 5, and because she's young, because she still has like the ability to take shots, and especially because at women's flyweight, there really isn't anybody who's like a huge knockout threat. Dude, I think that's how Blanchfield came out in round 5. I think that's how she should come out every single round of every single fight. I don't think anyone would beat her.
Round 5 Blanchfield.
Her wrestling is good, and she had trouble taking Rose down in the first 2 rounds, but she's a good wrestler, and she was able to find a way to take Rose down.
Yes. And then when she got Rose down, Rose had nothing to offer.
Yeah, she could not get up. Blanchfield has great top pressure. Yeah, I liked this performance from Blanchfield. She was down the first 2 rounds, and I don't know whether it was, just something in her or her corner work. She really, starting in round 3, really started to take it over. And round 4 was close. Round 4 was a very close round. That was really the closest round of the fight. That if you were gonna make an argument for Rose winning 3-2, round 4 would be the argument. But I think Blanchfield just fucked her up so bad in round 5 that there was no argument.
No.
Yeah.
Main event, we had Brandon Moreno versus Amir Albazi. I mean, great work from Moreno. He looked great.
Fantastic.
He looked like Brandon Moreno that was the champ.
Yeah, absolutely. Dude, my favorite thing that Moreno does is that walk-in left kick. It's not like a switch kick. He kind of walks
It's like the step-up left.
Yeah,
the one he got Kai Kara France with?
Yes, to the body. Yeah, he was landing that. He must have landed at least 2 or 3 of those every round on Albazi. I think that's one of his best weapons.
Easily.
Yeah, super, super good. Fun to watch. Brandon's back. I mean, he wanted to take more time off before this fight, but he was like, fuck it, I just need to get back in there. And so he did take more time off than he usually does in between fights, which I think was good for him. Man, seeing him get a performance like that was awesome to see. I think we all love Moreno. He's such a likable guy and a likable fighter. His style is great. On the other hand,
he consistently gets better. Every time you see Moreno, he's definitely, you can tell, improved.
Yeah.
He's continuing to evolve. He's not willing to just well, this is who I am. This is how I fight. This is my style. He's continually refining and improving and trying to go for what I think is probably another title shot here soon. I can't imagine he's too far off.
Maybe him versus Royval for the third time. Unfortunately, but that's where he's at, bro. Because he's been cleaning out the division. Problem. He's fought everyone. Everything's rematches.
What about Tatsuo? What about Moreno versus Tyra?
I like that.
I do too, but I feel like Tyra is going to be out for a while, bro. After that ass whooping.
I think Tyra is going to be after a while.
But that's fine. I don't think Tyra is going to be out for more than 6 months. Do you?
Yeah. No, and that may be enough time for Moreno. He may want some time off after this. He may not want to be a 3-month fighter.
Yeah,
that's a good matchup. Under the perfect circumstances, 100%.
And not only is it a good matchup, I think it's the only real matchup you can make for Brandon that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
right now I think it is because we're tied up with Pantoja, who's fighting Kai Asakara.
Yeah,
Royval is obviously
they've already fought twice.
The number one contender, right? So Royval, Pantoja, I guess. Or Royval, Asakara, depending on how that shakes out, makes sense.
I mean, dude, do we want to see Royval versus Pantoja again? I don't. You know what I mean?
Not really.
It's like
not really. Fuck no, dude. Fuck no.
Everyone watching the flyweight division is kind of hoping that Asakura comes in and just fucks up Pantoja, so we can actually see some
new matchups.
Yeah, some new matchups at the top for the title.
We need it. It's really tough.
If Asakura wins, I think Royval's the clear shot.
Yep.
You know,
it just sucks that all of the really big prospects keep getting fraud checked on their way up the division. It just leaves all the top guys up there fighting each other.
Yep. Yeah. Is Garbrandt staying down at flyweight?
No, he's at bantamweight.
No, bantamweight.
He went back up after the Kai fight. Okay.
I think he's fought twice at bantamweight.
Since
he fought Figgy at bantamweight, and then he fought Brian Kelleher at bantamweight as well.
Okay. Yeah, so I couldn't remember if he was still hanging around flyweight or not. But
and I think there was another dude in there too, and that performance was really terrible. His first fight back up to bantamweight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, on the other side of this matchup, Amir Albazi, I think maybe he should have taken a little bit more time before taking a Moreno matchup.
Yeah.
He didn't look like himself. He's usually more aggressive. He's got a good amount of finishes. I thought we were going to see a little bit more of a competitive fight from Albazi, but I do chalk it up to time off with really serious surgeries.
Yeah.
I hope he comes back. I hope he takes a little bit of time off, comes back. Maybe you do, I don't know, who would be next for Albazi? You do the rematch with Kai Kara France. That could be cool because that one, I mean, listen, there's just not a ton of movement. Yeah, there's not a ton of movement up there. And when when the first fight went as evenly as it did, I think there's a good argument to make that rematch.
Definitely. I think that's what we have to do with the mirror because I'm sure Kai wants that win back. That was one of those where I think everybody watching thought Kai won.
Yeah, It was close,
so
but yeah.
But I'm sure there's something to prove there. It gives Kai that opportunity while he kind of waits for the top half of the division to shake itself out.
Yeah.
Because unfortunately, flyweight is a little bit stagnant right now. We're just kind of waiting on some stuff.
Yeah, That's it from the Fight Nerds. Fight Nerds! Oh my God. We're glazing the Fight Nerds so hard that I'm calling ourselves the Fight Nerds.
Dude.
From the Fight IQ crew, thank you guys. Thanks to Moreno and Dustin Stoltzfus specifically. Adios.
Oh.